Today, we're going to dig into something a little different. We're going beyond just symbols and ideas to explore what our source material calls the heart of the Watchman. That's the deep, personal, internal experience of someone who stands guard, someone who sees things that maybe others miss.
So let's just start with this question. Think about it for a second. What does it actually feel like to be wide awake when it seems like the entire world around you is fast asleep? What does that do to you, to your soul, to see things so clearly when others just don't? To really get into that, our first stop is what our source calls the Watchman's inner world. We're going to focus on the internal life, the personal cost that comes with this kind of spiritual awareness.
And here's where we hit on a really key idea. We're moving beyond abstract concepts, like a standard, which is like a battle flag, or a trumpet, that's the alarm for danger. The source material is challenging us to ask a different question. What is the emotional hit of seeing these warnings? What does it feel like deep in your soul?
And this feeling, it's not some quiet, peaceful, contemplative thing. Not at all. It is loud, it's visceral, and it's painful. The source material actually describes it as the sound of a heart breaking. To really get a handle on this feeling, the text points us to this incredibly raw, powerful cry from the prophet Jeremiah. Now, the language is ancient, and it's supposed to be a little jarring. This is not the sound of someone just calmly observing the world. This is the sound of someone feeling its pain firsthand. So let's break this down a bit. That first phrase, my bowels, in ancient terms, that's referring to the deepest, most sensitive part of a person. This isn't just surface-level sadness. We're talking about a gut-wrenching, physical pain that shows this message is felt in his very core. And then you have this incredible line, my heart maketh a noise in me. Can you imagine that? It describes a state so troubled, so stirred up, that it's literally creating a commotion inside of him. It's like a storm raging inside you, one you just can't calm down. And of course, what happens next? Well, that internal noise has to come out. The turmoil inside becomes this compulsion to speak, to warn, to cry out. When your heart is making that much noise, staying silent just isn't an option anymore.
So the crucial point here is this. What we're hearing isn't some academic, detached lecture. It's the raw sound of a soul in agony. It's someone who is feeling the full, crushing weight of the message he has to carry, right as it's happening. But what is it that's causing all this pain? Where does it come from? Well, that leads us right into our next section, which the source material calls the weight of knowing. The pain, it turns out, comes from seeing things with a brutal kind of clarity. The Watchman sees the reality of what the source calls sudden destruction. It's this sharp, painful awareness that all the things the world trusts in, well, they're fragile. They can be swept away in a moment. This slide really lays out the two different worlds we're talking about. On the one hand, you've got the world's focus building bigger tents, prettier curtains. In other words, just getting more stuff, more comfort, more security. But then on the other side, you have the Watchman's reality, the chilling knowledge that all those things are temporary, that they can be spoiled in an instant. And this brings us right back to that heartbreaking question. And you have to understand, this isn't just someone asking, when is this going to happen? This is a cry of pure exhaustion. It's the plea of someone who is so tired of the war, so tired of being on constant alert, so tired of the pain that comes with it. And that, right there, is the core of the burden. Our source describes it as a profoundly lonely and heavy position to be in. Just imagine it. Imagine hearing a constant, blaring alarm that warns of danger, but nobody else seems to hear it. You're hearing the sounds of war while everyone else is just listening to the music of the world.
Okay, so if this experience is so painful, so isolating, then what's the point? Why go through it? Well, the source suggests the goal isn't the burden itself, but what it's supposed to create in us. It is ultimately a call to empathy. And here's the big shift. The text argues that the point isn't just to collect a bunch of facts about theology or about the future. The real calling is to cultivate the heart of the Watchman, to actually develop the ability to feel things this deeply. And this brings us to the central takeaway, which the source defines as spiritual empathy. It's that critical moment when abstract ideas become intensely personal. It's when we stop seeing spiritual decline as a chart or a statistic, and we start seeing it for what it is, a tragedy that involves real people. People we know, people we love, So to wrap it all up, this heart of the Watchman, it has three key characteristics. It's a heart that truly, deeply feels the pain and brokenness of the world. Because of that feeling, it's a soul that just cannot stay silent. And finally, it's a spirit that cries out with this deep longing for things to finally be made right.
And this leaves us with one last, really powerful question to think about. The prophet's heart was making a noise so loud he couldn't hold his peace. So, the question for you, for all of us, is this: what noise is your heart making?